CBS News Bay Area Afternoon Edition with Ann Makovec.
Right now on the afternoon edition, all across the Bay Area, people hitting the streets in May Day demonstrations, calling for change. Thanks for joining us today. It is the 1st of May, marked as International Workers' Day. And this year, there is certainly an added political tone to many of the demonstrations we are seeing. We start in the East Bay. Veronica Macias joining us live from UC Berkeley, where faculty is joining some of these May Day protests. Veronica.
Good afternoon. Yes, here at UC Berkeley and at UCs all across the state, we are seeing demonstrations. This is a one-day strike that we're seeing on this May Day. These UC workers, right now, they're not on the picket line. They're actually taking a lunch break because they've been out here since 10 this morning. And these workers, they have walked off the job today, deducting a full day's pay from their budgets this month. They're stressing that the consequences of a hiring freeze on their jobs here on campus is impacting them. They claim to be stretched thin with vacancies leaving them prone to possible injuries and without the ability to take some time off. It all amounts to what the union is calling unfair labor practices. Now, this strike is impacting some 40,000 UC workers. Charges have been filed with the state's Public Employment Relations Board, alleging that the hiring freeze is illegal, and there's been also denial of benefits to certain employees. One man who has worked here at UC Berkeley since 2017 says there's lots of pressure to do more with less staff available.
I personally am a cook. I work at Clark Kerr campus. I see a bunch of cooks here. I see custodians. I see food service workers. I see maintenance people, gardeners. Ever since the pandemic, our working conditions have declined, and we've just been understaffed. And the university knows that we're understaffed.
On May Day, workers around the globe mark this day, and especially in this country today, workers, our families, our communities are out here in force across the country, and certainly here in Berkeley and across California, insisting that the future should be ours.
Meanwhile, the university has made a response here saying that they've made efforts to collaborate with the union, saying in part, quote, "We're disappointed by the union's continued choice of striking as a negotiation tactic. These strikes cost union members a full day of pay, and they cost the university system millions of dollars. This is especially harmful considering the current economic and fiscal uncertainty in higher education and nationally." Well, this is a one-day strike, we know, on this May Day, but there have been several demonstrations in Berkeley. Just a few minutes away, there was a rally that was held earlier this morning at Berkeley High School, where educators there called for better wages and more resources. It's all part of what they're calling the We Can't Wait campaign, where teachers say they have been making do with too little for far too long here. And educators right now, they're also in the middle of negotiating new contracts.
We've presented 15 proposals to the district already to increase wages, to increase student supports, to staff up our schools, to give our students the schools they deserve. And so I think that it's important for us to all remember that these are choices that have been made over time, and we can make different choices.
Not too long ago, I heard back from the district in Berkeley. They say we continue to work to keep these funding challenges as far from our classrooms as possible. And those teachers this morning going on to say, you really have to invest in your educators to create the next generation of teachers who make a difference and really have this really big impact on students' lives. Here, workers telling me it's just important to invest in your workers to create a better community. Ann.
All right, and of course, we all appreciate the work of teachers, and we appreciate yours, too. Thank you, Veronica. Across the Bay, healthcare workers are also picketing at UCSF Medical Center at Mission Bay in San Francisco. They are echoing the concerns about staffing issues and the impact of a hiring freeze. UCSF said today's action is expected to have a limited impact on patient care. Demonstrations also expected at UCSF Benioff's Children's Hospital in Oakland. Dozens of people in San Francisco's Mission District joining May Day protests this morning, led by a truck full of drummers. They began their march at the 24th Street Mission BART Plaza, and they are on their way to City Hall right now. Groups representing teachers, city workers, LGBTQ and immigrant communities all joining together in this demonstration. One organizer tells us this effort is vital in the fight for democracy.
It's really important to show up, number one, to gather our strength together, to create that sense of unity, solidarity, believe in one another, number one. Number two, it's very important for those in power, for those elected officials, to be able to hear from the mass of people saying what we believe in and what we're fighting for.
And you can expect more May Day protests and marches across the Bay Area today to mark International Workers' Day. So be on the lookout in your community. We're going to be following all that. Taking a look at the other headlines going on today. The Oakland Teachers Union called off its May Day strike. The Oakland Education Association and the district struck a tentative deal just hours before educators were set to walk off the job for a day. The union says the deal will allow 120 high school teachers to keep their jobs. Both the school board and the union are calling the agreement a victory. And a potential teacher strike also averted in Fremont. The district says it reached a tentative agreement with the union on a 3-year contract. For weeks, teachers have been threatening to walk off the job over class size and compensation. The district says this new deal provides pay increases and better benefits. And while there is a settlement, the union just released a statement saying, quote, "Our members are disappointed that we were not able to win the class size caps we know our students need and create learning environments for our community that has come to expect it here in Fremont." Well, if you got stuck in traffic on the Bay Bridge yesterday, this is why. A man climbed the bridge around 200 feet above the water, caused an hours-long traffic backup during the evening commute. That man was taken into custody. Not clear right now if he's going to face any charges for this. All right, now to a major shakeup in the Trump administration. This has been fast moving today. CBS News learning that National Security Advisor Mike Waltz and his deputy are both leaving their post. And then within the past hour on Truth Social, President Trump wrote that he is going to be nominating Waltz to be the next U.S. ambassador to the United Nations. He goes on to write that he is now asking Secretary of State Marco Rubio to serve as interim National Security Advisor. So we're going to keep you posted on those changes. The Trump administration also dealing, of course, with news about the economy today as we start a new month. Natalie Brand has the latest from the White House.
Multiple sources tell CBS News National Security Advisor Mike Waltz and his deputy Alex Wong will be leaving their positions as soon as today. It comes weeks after revelations Waltz put together a Signal group chat about a strike in Yemen. The chat mistakenly included a journalist.
Pete Hegseth, who's doing a fantastic job. Pete, thank you.
Attending the president's national prayer event in the Rose Garden today, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, who posted sensitive details about the military operation within that group chat. On Capitol Hill, Democratic lawmakers are calling for him to go.
He doesn't have the dignity to resign. Trump should fire him. The National Security Advisor is out. He's the first person to leave. He will certainly not be the last.
The shakeup comes as the Trump administration is defending its trade policies after government data showed the U.S. economy shrank in the first quarter of 2025.
Right now, countries from all over the world, because of President Trump's leadership, are desperate and dying to make trade deals with the United States.
Uncertainty around the president's trade strategy has impacted consumer confidence, now at nearly a 5-year low. But Americans are still deeply divided.
How long is it going to take people's savings to recover?
It's all temporary.
The White House says it's focusing right now on Asian trading partners, meeting with a Japanese delegation today.
And in a blow to the Trump administration's deportation policies, a federal judge today barred the White House from deporting any Venezuelans from South Texas under the Alien Enemies Act, ruling that President Trump's invocation of that law was unlawful. Still ahead here at noon and streaming on CBS News Bay Area, it was a massive effort to relocate orphans from Southeast Asia here to the U.S. Operation Babylift. We hear from 3 women with 3 very different experiences. Plus, a new draw to Union Square. What is behind this eye-catching technology? I do not know what to think about this one. A new eye-catching technology to prove you're human has come to San Francisco. The World Network, this is the brainchild of OpenAI Sam Altman, has opened up a flagship retail location in Union Square. It is an identity and financial network that uses a biometric device called the Orb to prove that you are not a robot. It scans your eyes, and once it verifies you're human, you're given a World ID and given access to their network. Earlier, we spoke with USA Today Tech Life columnist Jennifer Jolly, and she explains why this technology is now necessary.
An estimated 90% of what you see online, everything that you see online within a year from now, might be generated by AI. That means we'll have no clue what's real anymore. This is the first big, bold, kind of bizarre attempt to repair all of that.
So you might be wondering about privacy concerns with the Orb. Well, the company says that the data it collects is instantly deleted. This week marks 50 years since the fall of Saigon and an end to the fighting between North and South Vietnam. Leading up to the fall of Saigon, for most of April 1975, the U.S. government airlifted almost 2,600 Vietnamese children to America for adoption. A series of 32 flights, part of Operation Babylift, which was not without controversy. At San Francisco's Crissy Field, an old building sits largely unnoticed. But 50 years ago, here inside Harmon Hall, an event unfolded that changed the lives of thousands, including the lives of 3 little girls. Laura.
We all survived a lot of trauma.
Wendy.
I find that I think about it less and less.
And Trisha.
The fall of Saigon was happening, and they just said, we got to get everybody out.
In April 1975, the 3 arrived at Harmon Hall along with hundreds of other Vietnamese children, all with adoption papers, thanks to a series of historic flights called Operation Babylift. President Gerald Ford, who authorized the effort, arrived at SFO to take a baby off the plane. Laura, now a musician, was adopted by a military officer and his wife.
All right.
Trisha, a teacher, found a new home with the family in Orange County.
Try every time.
And Wendy, an accomplished photographer, was embraced by a shipbuilder and his wife.
We'd heard about the children that needed homes and that we were just so concerned about what was happening over there.
You're back on live television again.
But the Babylift was not without controversy. At Harmon Hall, as the children were processed, some volunteers spoke Vietnamese with them.
They discovered that a significant number of them had families and that they were not orphans.
East Bay attorney Tom Miller immediately filed a class action lawsuit to determine who was eligible for adoption. He says some parents put their kids on planes to save them, hoping to join them later in the U.S.
All of this would have been preventable if the U.S. government had operated responsibly right from the very beginning.
A judge denied the lawsuit and sealed the records. Years later, international family law expert Ron Koltz did a deeper dive.
I discovered widespread misconduct.
Koltz researched federal, state, and court records involving the Babylift. She found nearly half of the children arrived with forged or fake identities.
I feel a grave sadness.
Today, many of the adoptees have turned to DNA tests to uncover their past. Trisha's results had a match. Her biological father had also taken a test.
He was searching for 35 years.
Laura's parents remain unknown.
Initially, I was hoping that one day my parents would see me singing on TV and they would come find me. And we'd live happily ever after.
As for Wendy, she had no desire to find any biological relative.
To me, that's not important at all.
All 3 love their adoptive parents. Wendy is busy with photography. Trisha adopted a daughter.
I had a great life with my family, my adopted family. And I survived.
But some of the adoptees suffered abuse after arriving in the U.S., including Laura. She now uses her music to help foster and adopted children who have suffered trauma.
It's my superpower. And if I can make change with music, with other young adoptees or foster kids or survivors. I would like that.
The end of the war was just the beginning for 3 very different women whose stories are still being written.
All right, back to our first alert weather, taking a live look in the South Bay from our Black Mountain camera. Let's check in with meteorologist Jessica Birch.
Today it's a little bit cooler. We're continuing that trend into this weekend with breezier conditions right around the corner too. Let's start off with this evening, just around 7 o'clock tonight. Winds up to around 20 and 25 miles per hour along our shoreline. Nothing too extreme, but we advanced the clock just 24 hours past that. Now we're talking about 30 to 40 mile per hour wind gusts along the shoreline, closer to Bodega Bay at least, all the way down into San Francisco, and advancing the clock one more time into Saturday afternoon. This is where we could see gusts up to around 50 miles per hour just along the North Bay, along that shoreline, and all the way off into the peninsula too. So it's important to note that it's going to be a gusty weekend around the corner. Now is the time to prepare. We also have a light chance that we could see some showers heading into our Friday and Saturday forecast, but as of now, the models are showing mostly the South Bay being impacted by that. And if anything, we'll see close to around 1/100 of an inch of rain. So nothing too extreme by any means. This isn't a huge washout event. It'll mostly just be a partly cloudy weekend ahead of us with temperatures dipping down back into the 60s in our inland spots. We're going to get that nice warm up into next week, sitting in the 80s as early as Monday. So if you didn't like that cool weekend, well, we're in store for some beautiful weather into early next week with sunnier skies for our friends along the bay too, back into the 70s by Monday.
It is a big day for theater. The Tony Award nominees were announced today on CBS Mornings. Death Becomes Her, the musical comedy. They're based on the hit 90s movie. It is up for Best Musical honors with Buena Vista Social Club, Dead Outlaw, Maybe Happy Ending, and Operation Mincemeat. Musicals are leading the pack on Broadway with Maybe Happy Ending, Death Becomes Her, and Buena Vista Social Club all getting 10 nominations apiece. Cynthia Erivo hosts the Tony Awards on June 8th here on CBS. Well, that is it for the afternoon edition. Remember, we are streaming 24/7 on the free CBS News app. Just download the app, go to Live, and then choose Bay Area.